garum, liwam, rice, tofu, and lots of spices. Or what ancient people ate, part 2. Welcome to today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to Funky Monkey MP, the place where you get your weekly dose of miniature painting, history and world building. Today's episode is a continuation of last week's episode regarding ancient food. Before we continue our journey, let us talk about the miniature. This is Cleo, the Bengal Ranger from Animal Adventures Tales of Cats and Catacombs. With that out of the way, let us begin. Today's episode is going to be a shorter one as I just want to touch upon some elements that I couldn't talk about last week, otherwise the video would have been half an hour long, so let's get to it. The Romans. The Romans are well known for creating one of the largest, strongest and longest lasting empires in European history, but I don't think we talk about their food as much as I would like. They had some interesting things in their diet that might sound funky to us, fishy or outright weird. Ancient fish sauce. They would take small fish guts, a lot of salt, mix them, put them in large containers and let them ripen in the sunlight. Once the fermentation process was complete, they would take this result and divide it into 3. The first part, garum, was the smooth, silky paste of fermented fish and fish guts that was very highly prized and very expensive. The resulting clear liquid was called liwamen and was very sought after, and the chunkier, grittier part that gathered on the bottom of the container would be called alec and would be given out to very poor individuals or slaves to flavor and enhance their food. This thing was quite expensive. People made fortunes off of it and people spent fortunes on it. They also consumed a hallucinogenic fish that is commonly found in the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic. I don't know if they did it on purpose at first, but I'm sure that once they realized that that particular fish gave them auditory and visual hallucinations, they started doing it more often. You have to understand that encompassing such a large territory, they had multiple cultures within their empire. As such, you have a lot of variety when it comes to food. When it comes to meat, Romans didn't eat beef all that often, again very expensive, reserved for ceremonies and religious sacrifices. They started eating more pork, poultry, but now let's talk about the interesting stuff. They had a very wide spectrum of things they ate. On one end of the spectrum you had dormice. Yes, those dormice. They were a delicacy for ancient Romans. What do you think they had on the other end of the spectrum? If you guessed giraffe, you'd be right. Discoveries in Pompeii showed that they ate everything from and anything from dormice to giraffes. Actually, Apicius, an ancient Roman cook, talks about a feast that one of the emperors had where they were served quail tongues drizzled in honey. I mean, of course, if you ate everything between dormice and giraffe, of course you would eat, at one point in your life, quail tongues drizzled in honey. Why wouldn't you? When it came to vegetables, they ate anything and everything, but they really liked cabbage. They found it very healthy, very tasty, and it was a cornerstone of their diet. Fruit. They are the reason cherries, apricots, peaches, lemons, oranges, and other fruit are found in Europe as well. They really liked their fruit, they really enjoyed eating a variety of fruits, and they made sure to bring them over from Persia and from Northern Africa and from everywhere they found new fruit and tried to grow them in Europe. Nuts, they ate a lot of walnuts. Actually, they are the reason walnuts are so widely available throughout Europe. Because they had a lot of Greek influences, they didn't really eat butter as they found it barbaric, and they didn't drink beer as they found it even more barbaric. They drank wine, usually spiced and sweetened with honey. Sometimes they sweetened it with lead. We're going to be talking about that another time. You know the drill, another story for another time. And with that, we covered the Romans. Let's take a look at the miniature and quickly move on. Using Catachan Flash, I am painting all of the protective elements made of leather that Cleo is wearing, paying close attention to the tail armor. And now, using Caliban Green, I am touching up the hood of Cleo's gambeson. It's looking pretty good. Let's talk about China. They mostly rely on rice and sorghum. Sorghum is a very ancient grain that is not that often found today. It's quite nourishing and it was very drought resilient. That's why it was cultivated on a larger scale. They didn't eat beef or mutton as it was introduced to them quite late in antiquity, but they relied mostly on pork. And they had, when it comes to pulse, they ate chickpeas, peas, soybean. That's how they ended up creating tofu. Tofu has been around for thousands of years. They also ate yams. They also made an art form out of drinking tea. Again, thousands of years. What's interesting is that noodles have a very important place in their society and culture, and although I'm gonna jump at least 1,000 years, in the Middle Ages, around 900 to 1000 CE, there were throughout China noodle places that would be open 24 hours a day, serving noodles to patrons. And when it comes to drinks, besides tea, they also enjoyed rice wine. Now let's talk about India. They really enjoyed fruits, Indian dates, mangoes, berries. They really enjoyed their meats, fish, beef, mutton, and they really enjoyed their pulse, chickpeas, lentils, and peas. But they really liked spicing things up and flavoring their dishes. As such, they have, historically speaking, added a lot of flavors to their food. They used turmeric, they used anise, they used cumin, and most of the spices that they use today in their kitchen. Their culinary history is quite rich, quite interesting, and quite flavorful. With that, let's take a look at the miniature and we'll come back. As any adventurer worth its salt, Cleo is carrying rope, hempen rope, that I am painting using a bit of Zendri dust and Ushapti bone. As you can see, it is coming along quite nicely. Now using Spirit Stone Red, I am painting Cleo's health potion, giving it that shiny, glaze, liquidy look. I am pretty happy with the result, to be honest. The ancient African continent. Although it's not right to blanket everything in one go, I'm gonna try to highlight the things that the ancient African people had in common. Although they were very diverse and very unique, they shared a few culinary traits that can be highlighted. They ate a lot of cheese and other dairy products. They didn't eat a lot of meat because in their climate conditions, meat spoils quite quickly. And once you bring down a larger animal, you have to consume it really fast, so they didn't make a habit out of conserving meat over longer periods of time. But interestingly enough, in comparison to other people, they ate chickens. Chicken is very rarely consumed in ancient times. But here in Africa, because there were several subspecies of course, they were small enough to be eaten in one sitting, they were small enough to process in one go. As such, chickens were a staple food in ancient Africa. They also ate yams and they relied on sorghum because again it was drought resilient, and another grain called teff. They also relied on millet. When it comes to fruit, fruit also had a very important role in their diet, as people need sweet things to have more energy and to bring more color to life. And with that, we're done with ancient food stuff and with our journey through culinary history in ancient times. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I truly hope you gained a little bit of inspiration today, or at least found out something new. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, leave a comment, and I'll see you all here next week on Funky Monkey MP. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day. Cheers!